The Exorcism of Emily Rose is a 2005 American supernatural horror legal drama film directed by Scott Derrickson, who co-wrote with Paul Harris Boardman. The cast includes Laura Linney, Tom Wilkinson, Campbell Scott, Colm Feore, Jennifer Carpenter, Mary Beth Hurt, Henry Czerny, and Shohreh Aghdashloo. The film follows a self-proclaimed agnostic, Linney, who acts as defense counsel representing a parish priest, Wilkinson, accused of negligent homicide after performing an exorcism. The story is loosely inspired by the real-life case of Anneliese Michel. The Exorcism of Emily Rose was released theatrically on September 9, 2005, by Sony Pictures releasing Screen Gems. The film grossed $145.2 million against a budget of $19 million. It received mixed reviews from critics, while Carpenter's performance was praised. It won Best Horror Film at the 32nd Saturn Awards. Plot: Erin Brunner, an ambitious lawyer seeking to become a senior partner in her law firm, takes the case of Father Richard Moore, a Catholic diocesan priest charged with negligent homicide following an attempted exorcism of 19-year-old student Emily Rose. While the Archdiocese wants Moore to plead guilty to minimize the crime's public attention, Moore instead pleads not guilty. During the trial, the statements of the witnesses are visualized via flashbacks. Prosecutor Ethan Thomas interrogates several doctors and neurologists to establish a medical cause for Emily's death, particularly epilepsy and schizophrenia. Emily had dropped out of her college studies after being consistently struck by delusions and muscle spasms at 3 a.m. She returned to her parents' home and was treated with epilepsy and psychosis medications. Moore was consulted when her condition failed to improve, and his assessment and observations led him to the conclusion that Emily was being possessed by a demon. With the consent of Emily's parents, Moore subjected Emily to an exorcism that ultimately failed. Moore surmised that Emily's medications were to blame for the unsuccessful expulsion, as they paralyzed Emily's brain activity and kept the demon out of reach. Moore, wanting to tell Emily's story, gives his testimony when he is called to the witness stand. Brunner begins experiencing supernatural phenomena at home, waking up at 3 a.m. to the smell of burning material. Moore warns her she may be a target for the demons, revealing he, too, has experienced similar phenomena on the night he was preparing the exorcism. Brunner supports Moore by summoning anthropologist Sadira Adani to testify about the beliefs surrounding spiritual possession from various cultures, but Thomas dismisses her claims as nonsense. Graham Cartwright, a medical doctor who attended the exorcism, gives Brunner a cassette tape on which the exorcism was recorded, and Moore presents the recording as evidence. Cartwright's testimony to authenticate the exorcism and refute the prosecution's medical case is prevented when he is suddenly struck and killed by a car. A distraught Brunner retreats to her office, where her boss threatens to terminate her if she allows Moore to testify again. Brunner visits Moore in his jail cell, where he convinces her to allow him to tell the rest of Emily's story despite her boss's threat. The next day, Moore takes the witness stand again and reads a letter that Emily wrote before she died. On the morning after the exorcism, Emily was visited by the Virgin Mary in a field near her house and was permitted the choice of ascending to heaven. However, Emily chose to endure her suffering and later received stigmata on her hands. Thomas does not interpret the markings as a divine sign but rather as traces of self-inflicted injuries. The jury ultimately reaches a guilty verdict but surprises the court by asking Judge Brewster to give a sentence of time served. Although momentarily shocked by the suggestion, Brewster accepts it, and Moore is free to go. Brunner is offered a partnership in her firm but declines. Later, Moore and Brunner visit Emily's grave, and Moore states that the time will come when Emily will be declared a saint. The epilogue reveals that while Moore never appealed his conviction and went to seclusion, Emily's story brought a profound effect on the masses, and her gravesite has become an unofficial holy shrine that draws visitors from all over the world. Cast: Laura Linney as Erin Christine Brunner, Tom Wilkinson as Father Richard Moore, Jennifer Carpenter as Emily Rose, Campbell Scott as Ethan Thomas, Colm Feore as Carl Gunderson, Joshua Close as Jason, Kenneth Welsh as Dr. Mueller, Duncan Fraser as Dr. Graham Cartwright, J.R. Born as Ray, Mary Beth Hurt as Judge Brewster. Henry Czerny as Dr. Briggs. Shohreh Aghdashloo as Dr. Sadira Adani. Production. The screenplay was written by director Scott Derrickson and Paul Harris Boardman. In honor of the contributions of Boardman and other collaborators on the film, Derrickson chose to forego the traditional film by credit. According to Derrickson's DVD commentary, he chose Boardman as his co-writer because Derrickson sees himself as a believer and Boardman as a skeptic, and believed the pairing would provide the screenplay with two different perspectives, thus providing the film some ambiguity as to whether it supports a religious/supernatural interpretation of the events depicted, or a more secular/medical interpretation. The character of Emily Rose was inspired by the story of Anneliese Michel. German director Hans Christian Schmid made his own film of Michel's story, Requiem, around the same time in late 2006. Linney recommended Carpenter for this role after working with her in a play. 4. Adolescent Sarah Niemitz was chosen as the vocalist for the soundtrack and score. 5. Niemitz worked again with Christopher Young on The Uninvited, 2009, 6, and is now an independent artist and cast member with Postmodern Jukebox. 7. Reception. Box office. The Exorcism of Emily Rose made $75.1 million domestically and $145.1 million worldwide against a $19 million budget. 2. According to Derrickson, the film was not as successful as he hoped. 8. Critical reception. On the review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds an approval rating of 45%, based on 155 reviews. The site's critical consensus reads, loosely based on a true story, The Exorcism of Emily Rose mixes compelling courtroom drama with generally gore-free scares and a ho-hum take on demonic cinema. 9. On Metacritic, it has an overall score of 46 out of 100, based on 32 reviews. 10. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times gave the film a rating of 3 out of 4 stars, describing it as intriguing and perplexing, and writing that the screenplay is intelligent and open to occasional refreshing wit. 11. Paul Arendt of BBC gave the film 3 out of 5 stars, referring to the flashback story as high-octane schlock that occasionally works your nerves, thanks to a committed performance from Jennifer Carpenter. 12. Ollie Richards of Empire gave the film 3 out of 5 stars as well, writing that, viewed as a horror movie, Emily Rose isn't much scarier than the average, but combined with intelligent and balanced courtroom drama, it has more to offer than your usual big-lunged, big-breasted screamer. 13. Jerome Reuter of Scream magazine gave the film a rating of 2 out of 5 stars, writing that The Exorcism of Emily Rose, while compelling at times, is nothing more than a blatant attempt to utilize a real human tragedy for an agenda. 14. Ed Gonzalez of Slant magazine gave the film 1.5 out of 4 stars, criticizing the aid